Sharks fans! My name is Jacob Boyd. I'll be presenting to you today a few Sharks players that could be on the move by this year's trade deadline. The San Jose Sharks have a bunch of players that are going to be on expiring contracts at the end of the season, and I'll be presenting to you only the NHL players and not some of the prospects list that will be RFAs at the end of the year. So again, just more of the NHL players. And if I feel the Sharks should or should not keep those players, whether I think that they'll be traded, whether I think they'll be released via free agency, or whether I think we should keep them. But getting right into it, I have Anthony Duclair, only age 28. He scored 2 goals, 7 assists with 9 points in 20 games played last season for the Florida Panthers. I think he played really well, in the short stint that he had. And then he only got better in the playoffs, which he had 4 goals, 7 assists, and 11 points in 20 games played in a Stanley Cup run with the Florida Panthers. He was the 7th best scorer in that cup run throughout the team. And he played, second and third line minutes. So really only playing 12 to 13 minutes a night, which was really surprising to me. He scored, a good amount for only in that 12 to 13 minutes per night range. But now the question, I guess, is will Anthony Duclair be a part of the Sharks rebuild? I think that's the big main question that all Sharks fans have. I have the same question. But my answer is it really depends on how he does in Teal. I think that's an easy answer to say, but I think that, it'll really dictate, if Mike Grier feels that he can either A, what can he get in a trade? What kind of haul can he get? Or B, what is Anthony Duclair going to be looking at in terms of an AAV-like extension? Are we talking 4 to 5 years AAV with 3 to 4 years of term? I think Mike Grier will have to balance, what he can get and in terms of a trade and what he can do in terms of re-signing him long term. But again, it really falls back to will he do the necessary things that Mike Grier and Coach Quinn want in terms of scoring production, because I think that's going to be the outlier or the reasoning behind keeping him moving forward. Does he fit on the Sharks team? But in my case, I do think we should re-sign him, even if it's a 4-year AAV or 4-year term with a $4 to $5 million AAV. I think we should lock him up for about 4 years. It takes him into the age 32 season, and I think that's when I see production fall off more so in terms of forwards. So I think we'll keep him into his prime years. Next, I have Mike Hoffman. Mike Hoffman is age 33 years old. He scored 36 points in each of the last 3 seasons, but only played around 67 games played. So meaning if he played a full 82, where would he be? He'd probably be around the 45 plus point mark, in my opinion. Maybe could get to 50 points, which is a stretch, but it's not far-fetched. So I just really wonder if he can, play a full season, or, maybe we just deal him at the trade deadline as well. I think a lot of Sharks fans, would want to see that, but, my thing is he can really score the puck. He might be a good fit on a, a cup contending team and give him that extra goal prowess. So I really do think he'll also be traded just like other Sharks fans, other pundits. But, will he do that for the Sharks team is the main question. And if he does not, then I think it would be hard to trade his contract. So he could get released at the end of the season. But if he does, put in enough goals and attracts teams, I do think that Greer will trade him. He will not be kept moving forward. I think that Mike Greer wants more of a gritty game, and he's more of a finesse type player. So I am interested to see what Mike Hoffman can do, though, moving forward. But my take is that he'll either be traded or released at the end of the year or at the trade deadline. Moving forward, I have number 3, Alexander Barabanov. He's 29 years old, and he's coming off, his best point production year of his career. That being said, though, it is only 47 points in 68 games. He's never had an 82-game season. The 2 real full seasons that he's had was around 68 games played. And although a lot of people do see that, last year was his first real, 68 point or games played season where he scored 37 points. And then last year he did up it 10 points to go to 47. So he is improving every season. He's really only played four NHL seasons though, and the first 2 were 15 games or less. But that being said, I do like Barabanov's game. He plays that tough, physical, grinded out game. He is a pass-first guy. So I think, with Logan Couture centering him, and then hopefully having, a right winger in like, say, Anthony Duclair, or Philippe Zadina, you're going to want a guy that he can pass the puck to and really shoot the puck and score some goals. That's what you're really going to want to ask for from Barabanov, is you're going to get more passes and assists rather than goals, because he only had about 15 goals last year, and then I think he had like 10 goals the previous year. So he's not much of a real scoring threat on a second line, where you probably want to see more of a 20-plus goal scorer, but he did have over 30 assists last year. So, hopefully he continues that, and he works on his production, and we could even see a bigger bump in his play and production. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. But that being said, I think this is Mike Greer's toughest call in terms of whether to re-sign him or whether not to. I think he could go either way on this one. Maybe a 3-year deal where it puts him at the age 32 season, just like Anthony Duclair, and we can have, our top lines set a little bit for the next 3 seasons. So yeah, I would say keep him for a 3-year AAV, but it really depends on how he plays this coming season. Just like I stated for Anthony Duclair, I think it's kind of a prove it, up until trade deadline. Do we trade him or do we keep him for 3 years? Next, I have Philippe Zadina. He's an RFA, and I think if Zadina fits in well with the Sharks and he does all the things that the coaching staff needs him to do, which is really put the puck in the net, he'll get another contract with the Sharks this offseason. But if he does falter, I can see Greer just, saying, hey, thank you very much. This was your kind of prove it contract for 1 year. I could see him releasing him if he doesn't do well. I can't see, another team trading for him at the deadline if he just doesn't produce. But if he does produce, I wouldn't trade this guy. I would re-sign him and to a multi-year deal. So that would be, my Sharks hope that he does well and that we can re-sign him to a multi-year deal. At number 5, I have Kevin Labanc. So Kevin Labanc's in UFA. He obviously fell out of favor with Coach Quinn last year. He was scratched multiple times throughout the season. But Labanc does give you, that great shot. He does give you good looks on the power play. You will see a good offensive game from Labanc, but the problem is he never back checks. He doesn't do anything defensively that you want to see from him on winning teams. And if the Sharks want to improve defensively, you won't see Kevin Labanc out there. Unfortunately, I think if Kevin Labanc could work on his defensive qualities, 200-foot game, I think that he could be an NHL player, a third line winger in the future. But even on a bad Sharks team, I just don't see it. So I'm going to have to, say it's a no for me. I think Kevin Labanc will be either traded if he has okay, but in the last couple off seasons, nobody wanted him via trade. This off season, this trade deadline, I don't see it happening. So unless he has a renaissance, right? But he'll probably be released via free agency at the end of the year. Next, I have Luke Cunnin. I think he's another RFA. I think Luke was, brought in to the Sharks last year to provide toughness, to provide grit, to a team that really lacked that the past few years. You can really see what Cunnin has to offer, though, and that is just that grit and toughness. He does have some offensive ability. I can see, where he does get his, a little bit of goal scoring prowess on, a third and fourth line. But, to be asking him to go to the second line last year was just a little too much, I think. He was trying a little too hard, so I think they brought him down to the third and fourth lines last year, and it really suited him better. But it was unfortunate, on game 31, he tears his ACL. But, injuries happen. I hope that, Luke can come back and be stronger from it. I hope that he can have a bounce back season. But I do think he is a trade candidate. This guy, with providing grit and toughness, I think a lot of playoff teams want that in a player. I think that he would, fetch a little bit more just because of those qualities. Not that he's a scorer by any means, but he does have that offensive ability and he has that toughness and grit. I think it is a playoff trait, and I do think Greer could get something back for him. And I think that's what will happen. If he doesn't have a good season, then obviously he's just going to get released via free agency, right? Number 7, I have Radim Šimić. I personally really liked Šimić, his first couple seasons with the Sharks. Obviously, after, a couple of those injuries, he just wasn't the same player, unfortunately. He lost that quickness, lost that burst coming, when he would get the puck behind the net, he would make quick plays when his first 2 years, but then his most recent year, he didn't have that burst off the boards with the puck. Couldn't skate out like he normally did, but then now he was just trying to pass it, and he just didn't make the right passes last season. Just was hurt again, and it was just an unfortunate events. But he is an AHL NHL tweener this year. He's going to be vying for that last third line D spot, and there's multiple guys that are trying to get that spot out of training camp. He's just one of them. But I can see him, maybe being scratched, healthy scratch. Not even just that. I can see him maybe playing AHL down with the AHL Barracuda. I'm not even sure if he has a two-way contract, but I don't see another team picking him up. So we'll see what happens with him. I can only really see him getting released at the end of the season. I don't see a trade candidate unless Greer can miraculously pull something off. Then he'll probably be released at the end of the season. Next, we have number 8, Jacob McDonald, another AHL NHL tweener. He'll probably be battling it out just like Shimmick for that last third line D pairing, and he'll most likely always just play on bad teams and be that tweener kind of guy. But I can't see McDonald coming back next year. I can really only seeing him be released at the end of the year. Number 9, I have Capo Kakinen. An interesting one here. Might be our number 1 goalie, might be our number 2 goalie. We just have to see how he does out of training camp. That battle will be, with Mackenzie Blackwood. Who will win out? Who will get the lion's share of, minutes going into the season? I think that Capo Kakinen, if he has a strong training camp, if he has a good start to the year, he will be the number 1 goalie. But likewise for Mackenzie Blackwood, it's kind of like, who's going to take the reins and who's not. But if he does not, he's just going to get released at the end of the year. But if he does show the qualities that, San Jose can really work with and have progression with, I can see the Sharks re-signing him if he has, a developmental year and they see progression. But in my eyes, I do think that he'll be released. I think Mackenzie Blackwood will be the number 1 starter, winning that training camp battle and being throughout the year. But I just don't think the Sharks, defensively will be good enough for either of these guys. It's going to be one of those where, I hope that Sharks goaltending will be better, but we'll see. When I believe, in my estimation, that the defense and offense, a better team will make the goalie look better. I think that you can have, a mediocre goalie and still win the Stanley Cup, a la Las Vegas. Or it's just, a goaltender getting hot. You do have the Vasilevskys of the world, yes, but, even Vasilevsky had, he didn't even have the greatest of playoffs this past year. So, you never know with goalies. I think it's really the play up front that dictates everything. And the Sharks will not have that this year. And I hope it doesn't. I hope the goalies can be a little bit better for it, though. And last but not least, you have number 10, Oscar Lindblom. Really a disappointing player. I think both Sharks and NHL fans alike wanted to see this kid, play well, make the NHL squad, do well with, his minutes, but the game wasn't there last year. Watching last year, those games when he played, he was probably the Sharks' worst player, to be honest. Pretty much night in and night out that he was on the ice, so unfortunate. But my hope is for a bounce back season, obviously. But from the standpoint that, I've watched, he just doesn't have it anymore. But I do wish Oscar Lindblom, the best, because he's a fighter. He's a winner of cancer. I just respect that so much. But unfortunately, this is the game of hockey. He's getting paid to do this, and he should be producing at the level that he's getting paid, and that's $2.5 million AAV. And he's just hasn't been a productive member at that cap hit. And so I do think that he will be released at the end of the season. But hey, well wishes, Oscar. You are an ambassador for the game, and keep that work up. And so, yeah, those are my top 10 views on, whether, these unrestricted or restricted free agents will be back with the Sharks. So I really enjoyed this one. I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. But again, my name is Jacob Boyd. I'm with Hello Sharks fans. I appreciate you guys. If you guys did like this one, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you guys, and peace.